This is one of the most transformative ventures that our school or any school can take.
This kind of exemplifies a lot of GDS's core instillment of values.
It kind of is the epitome of what GDS stands for. The GDS Policy and Advocacy Institute is a 4-week summer program for rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors at GDS. For 4 weeks during the summer, the students are in one of 2 or 3 tracks that focus on different social justice issues.
It's important for them to empathetically and vulnerably engage in what others' experiences are and make bridges and connections to their values.
In DC, we have the intersection of social justice issues that are happening and affecting people's day-to-day lives, but we also have the policymakers who are seeking to create sustainable long-term change.
We also want to send our students into the world prepared to have an impact. And the way that you do that is not simply by studying how to make change in the world, you actually engage.
A really wonderful opportunity, I think, for kids to be engaged in a subject matter without the other distractions of an academic year.
In the summer of 2017, we offered 3 tracks for the Policy Institute. Life Resettled focused on refugee resettlement and immigration. Addressing Sexual Assault and Consent ran for a second summer, and the 3rd track was Waging Life in the DMV, which focused on living wage employment opportunities, affordable housing, and family leave.
They learn what it looks like to be an expert and why that's important.
It was a great way to be with friends from school and do something productive with my summer.
It is a GDS thing, and it's an amazing opportunity because high schools around the country don't do this.
I think it's just a really good way to spend the first half of your summer. You're doing something really interesting.
It is a completely different learning experience than our students are accustomed to.
I think for a lot of the students, they had ideas of what it was to be a refugee or an immigrant or a displaced person because of what they see in the news. They're learning so much more about the scope of the issue.
For me, I chose the Life Resettled track because I was really interested in refugee issues. I was born in Jerusalem, so my family knew a lot of people that had been displaced from their homes.
I think it's one of the more pressing issues that people around the world are facing today. 65.6 million people are refugees.
One of the things we noticed was just the lack of awareness around the issue and being informed and how misinformed people are.
A majority of refugees don't necessarily want to come to the US. They want to stay in their home countries, and they don't want anything free from the government. All they want is a good job.
So often these people are just like us. They're trying to lead better lives. That's why they're fleeing their homes.
I just want them to be able to see this issue from lots of different perspectives, building their sense of empathy and compassion, and really learning how to be good everyday advocates.
I didn't know the stats, I didn't know everything that the survivors had to go through, the trauma.
Whether it's objectifying women or derogatory terms used to women or just sort of being inconsiderate, said is sort of connecting the dots between the sort of everyday language that people use and actually sexual assaults.
From what we've learned is that survivors, they should be getting more support, and that in fact the law says survivors are gonna get support, but they don't.
I realized that this wasn't just about learning about all the things that are wrong with sexual violence, but this was an opportunity to learn about what it means to help and the different ways to help.
I chose the DMV because I'm really interested in homelessness in the DC area, the source of it, and I think it's important to learn how people become homeless and to find solutions.
I think a lot of people may think that, people that are experiencing homelessness will be kind of deadbeats, it's somehow their choice to kind of be out on the streets, which is not at all true.
There's the data, and then there's the stories, and how you need both of those to effectively understand policy and also to understand, advocacy, because you can see that from the perspective of those who are affected as well as those who want to be change makers.
So we've looked at issues including minimum wage versus living wage, and the fact that the amount someone needs to make to live in DC is so much more than the minimum wage. We have developed incredible partnerships over the past 4 years with local nonprofits and community agencies.
We also get the freedom to take these really amazing field trips into all of the spaces that DC offers.
We live in the nation's capital, so it was a great way to use our resources right in our backyard.
For literally 3.5 weeks, pretty much every day we were talking to a new expert
and met with so many people who had so many different backgrounds.
What I thought would be really interesting is that you're hearing from people, you're not just reading a textbook.
For me, it was really interesting to hear the personal stories of refugees.
It's definitely different when you hear it in person and it's not just like some story you're reading online.
Coming in, not knowing anything, and now going out of it and like coming out with our action plan, I have so much information.
Yeah, those first 2 weeks for us were a number of different places and seeing things, and even to take that first day after those 2 weeks, and I just put up a bunch of large Post-its. You've got each of the different places we visited, and what did we get from it?
It's definitely student oriented in terms of like they get to drive what's of interest to them. There's not an assigned project. They create some sort of deliverable, shareable item, but how that is and what that is entirely up to them.
So for our final project, we decided to finish the channel they made on YouTube from last summer. My group specifically worked on sharing refugee stories.
One of the videos that we did, we actually went to downtown, like the National Mall, and we were just walking up to people and asking, like, what's your opinion on the travel ban? Or what do you think of the refugee crisis?
People can click on a 5-minute video, a 3-minute video, and they can watch it, gain a little bit of insight into an issue, and maybe really become passionate about that.
You hear these huge numbers of how many people have been displaced, but when you really personalize and humanize people, it really brings a face to a number.
The kids did a summit for Washington area independent schools. This year they want to do a summit again.
That's how I actually found out that this program existed. All the workshops I attended at the summit were really interesting and very new to me. All the concepts were new.
We're just going to invite schools across the country, public, private, doesn't matter.
People who are coming in are learning about cultural aspects and the process and what happens when someone is sexually assaulted.
One of the things we're doing is working on a website that will provide information on services and organizations that exist to help people that are experiencing homelessness or people that are struggling to afford the cost of living in DC.
Jobs, houses, locations, all into one place that's easily accessible and user-friendly.
We've met with a lot of really incredible people that have a lot of really great stories, and we think if we can share their stories and their ideas with the GDS community, we can start to bring the community together to start chipping away at this issue.
So at the end of the Policy Institute every year, we invite parents, families to come and join us on campus at the high school for a culminating event.
Each track made a presentation. There were not just statistics, but the stories behind the individuals that they met in this past month.
Parents and students and faculty are able to mingle, to talk with the Policy Institute fellows, to learn about the work that they did and hear about their plans to move forward.
What struck me about these presentations is how sophisticated the children have become in the last month. They are articulate, they are professional, they know how to present themselves, and they know how to engage with the communities that they're interacting with a great deal of empathy.
I really got the feeling from listening to all the tracks tonight that this will be just the beginning of something really special.
Every year we see our students continuing to work on their projects well into the next school year. They're no longer content to just sit back and be like, wow, that was cool, but they're really fired up and passionate to do something more.
I'm really curious what happens, sort of how this maybe is a launching pad for their futures.
What I took away from this experience was meeting with all these community partners and how to handle yourself in a professional environment. It was interesting to sit there and hear about these issues and think about going forward what we can do to help.
When I'm able to do something and actually do hands-on work with people and I can see the difference I'm making in their lives, that's what feels really rewarding.
I think the more that I participated, the more I sort of realized how complicated it was. And I was just blown away by how much I learned and how much I didn't know.
We got flooded with all of this incredible information, and it took us a long time to learn how to sort it all out. The experiences we've had, we will always remember.
It's exposed me to an issue. I've learned a lot about it, and it's motivated me to do something.
It was just an overall really good experience, and I'm really glad that I did it.
The fact that programs like this exist to engage with Washington in a meaningful way really is the spirit of the school as I've come to see it.
And for parents, I say 100% encourage your kids to go because they will come away with a great new perspective.
They're approaching this as students, but they're leaving the program as knowledgeable young experts.
They are doing real work in order to have an impact now and in order to step into the world beyond Georgetown Day School to make the world a better place.
It's about finding their voice. It's about formulating their own ideas. This is GDS at its best.